on the air tonight. Something crawls in the pale moonlight. Oh, turn on the radio, the Bruce Collins Show, the Bruce Collins Show, the Baron of Broadcasting. Oh, 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 the Bruce Collins Show. Chad Miles laughs, a wicked twisted sound. Aftermaths of souls that can't be found. Oh, turn on the radio, the Bruce Collins Show, the Bruce Collins Show, the Baron of Broadcasting. Oh, 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 the Bruce Collins Show. Chad Miles laughs, a wicked twisted sound. Aftermaths of souls that can't be found. Oh, turn on the radio, the Bruce Collins Show, the Bruce Collins Show, the Baron of Broadcasting. Oh, 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 the Bruce Collins Show.
Welcome back to the Bruce Collins Show. We're very glad to have you join us. Tonight we will be talking to Nils Grevillius, a character in the upcoming Mandalorian movie. I'm kidding. I probably should not be making fun of Nils Grevillius' name, as he can probably seriously hurt me in 110 different ways. Nils Grevillius is a famed private investigator who uncovered corruption in the famous Wonderland Avenue Murders. He's the author of the upcoming book, The Last Lawman, and this promises to be an exciting interview. And now let me introduce you to my co-host, Chad Miles. Chad is a political advisor specializing in technology issues. He has consulted with numerous candidates at the local, state, and federal levels. In 2006, Chad ran for a seat in the U.S. House of Representatives in Michigan's 14th Congressional District. While the campaign was ultimately unsuccessful, the experience was invaluable. A native of Northeast Ohio, Chad volunteered for service in the Army in 1990. He served 7 years in active duty with the 82nd Airborne Division, 2nd Infantry Division, and the 5th Special Forces Group. And Chad, welcome back to the show.
Hey, it's good to be back, Bruce. What's going on?
Well, it's great to have you back, of course. And
Thank you.
I lost my place. Here we go. I'll edit that out. Okay. So, Chad, it's great to have you back on the program, of course, as always. Now, last week I had mentioned that I ran into an old friend of yours. Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember.
So last week before the show, I made contact with someone from your past who you have not talked to for decades.
Really? Who is it?
Well, she is actually not in the studio today, Chad. I had her call in, and she's now retired, Miss Doris Dirkwissel. Chad, does that name ring a bell for you?
That name does not ring a bell for me. How do I know her?
Doris, are you on the line?
Yes, hello.
Hi, Doris. Chad, say hello to Miss Dirkwhistle.
Hi, Miss Dirkwhistle. Have we really met before?
We've already established that, Chad. Miss Dirkwhistle, you were Chad's 5th grade teacher, weren't you?
Oh, yes, I was. Chad was a very good student, although needed extra work with his fractions.
I'm 3/4 certain of that.
Miss... Hold on.
This is not half as funny as I thought it would be. Okay,
Miss
go ahead.
Dirkwhistle, are you sure you were my 5th grade teacher? I remember that being Mr. Beanswagger.
Chad always had ants in his pants. He never could sit still.
That sounds like Chad. I'm now 6/8 sure that Chad was your student.
You do realize that 3/4 and 6/8 are the same, don't you?
I'm so happy to see you're still practicing your fractions, Chaddy.
Chatty?
I do not know this person. This is all a charade.
Quiet, Chad. Class is in session. Now, Miss Dirkwhistle, was Chad a difficult student?
Oh, heavens no. Only when he's needed his diapers changed.
His diaper in the 5th grade? Chad?
This is ridiculous. This is obviously not my teacher. Where did you find this person?
He was so rambunctious. He always had ants in his pants.
Sounds like he had more than ants in there.
Where did you meet this lady, Bruce?
Outside.
Where outside?
Well, I was walking outside the other day, and this lady came right out of the building that I walked by. We struck up a conversation, and I mentioned my co-host, and she remembered you in her class years ago. Right, Miss Dirkwhistle?
Fractions, fractions. Put down your pencils.
What was the name of the building she came out of?
It said, Shady Palm Psychiatric Center.
Bruce, get this lady off the show. You've made a terrible mistake.
You heard him, Miss Dirkwhistle. Chad's not the type to reminisce about school.
Very well, but don't expect to pass the test on Monday.
Okay, Bruce, don't ever do that again.
I was just trying to help, but that reminds me I need to make a phone call.
Why?
Your gym teacher came out of the same building, Chad. I suspect you don't want to talk to him either.
I think it's time for the Chad Miles report.
Extra credit if you use your fractions.
Okay, and then we'll play them.
The odometer spins like a clock on fire. Captain Doomsday preaching from a rusty wire. Headlines scream, they twist, they bend. The truth's a mirror that'll never mend. Chad Miles whispers, Chad Miles shouts. The world's a circus, full of doubts. Curated chaos, the news on repeat. The Chad Miles report, where fiction meets the street. Spinning tales, breaking minds. The odometer ticks, truth's hard to find. Static buzzes through the midnight haze. Doomsday rants in his cryptic craze. Every mile a story, every spin a lie. A satellite blinks in the dying sky. Who's the captain? Who's the clown? Turn it up, turn it down. Words like thunder, truth like smoke. This report's the punchline of the joke. Curated chaos, the news on repeat. The hard to find. Truth's hard to find. Static buzzes through the midnight haze. Doomsday rants in his cryptic craze. Every mile a story, every spin a lie. A satellite blinks in the dying sky. Who's the captain? Who's the clown? Turn it up, turn it down. Words like thunder, truth like smoke. This report's the punchline of the joke.
Okay, Chad, you heard the music, and I heard the music. I have earphones on. It's time for the Chad Miles Report.
Take it away.
Oh, you want me to say
Sorry,
that?
I was
Take
waiting
it away,
for
Chad.
article number 1.
I could make T-shirts now that say "Take it away, Chad."
Do it. I dare you.
But I digress.
If
We lost Chad. Chad, are you there?
I'm back. If you are the woman who dropped off a human skull at the Goodwill Donation Center in Chelsea, Michigan on January the 26th, the Chelsea Police Department would like a word with you. CBS News reported that a woman who was caught on the store's surveillance camera brought in a skull wrapped in a shirt. The skull appeared to be intact and didn't have any visible damage. Officers turned it over to the county medical examiner, who forwarded it to the anthropology department at the University of Michigan for further study. That's from CBS News.
She got the wrong place. She thought it was the Good Skull Donation Center. Like, who, like I've donated to Goodwill and the Salvation Army, old clothes and things like that, but who donates a skull? Like,
That's weird.
Thinking that would go in the store for people to buy.
That's weird.
Yeah, that's very suspicious. I mean, you just don't do that. That's like insane.
Bizarre.
Human skull. Like, do you go to Goodwill to find extra bones?
I find it weird that they gave it to the University of Michigan and not the Chelsea Police Department.
Yeah.
That's kind of strange.
Do you have any good skulls here?
Weird.
I'm looking for a bargain. Sorry.
Article number 2. On February the 1st, as a freak snowstorm blanketed parts of North Carolina.
Not a normal snowstorm.
A freak snowstorm wrapped in a T-shirt. Former Little Caesars employee Jonathan Hackett, aged 41, broke into a Little Caesars store in Kingston and started making pizzas to sell. Charlotte Observer reported.
He's an entrepreneur.
He's motivated. I'll give him that. Correction, but there's a correction, folks. Hackett broke in twice. The first time he made and sold pizzas to customers, keeping the proceeds for himself. The second time, employees were still in the store and tried to stop him from entering, police said. Hackett was charged with 3 felonies. That's from the Charlotte
Observer. And the manager
Observer.
of Little Caesars said he's never seen him work harder.
I find it interesting that in this day and age when employers complain about finding people to work, that this young, motivated man would get in trouble for his work ethic.
And he's done this twice, but he got 3 felonies. We're left to guess what was the other thing he did. That's
Extra
crazy.
motivated. Article number 3.
And he's 41, so it was a long career for him.
That's right.
Little Caesars.
He's young, though. He could make more pizzas and break into more Little Caesars. I mean,
yeah,
he has a long career ahead of him.
Maybe he'll be the CEO one day.
The Caesar EO.
Now he can make pizzas in prison.
Article number 3. City officials in Gastonia, North Carolina, got involved after a video surfaced of someone getting a tattoo in a Wendy's dining room in the city.
What is going on
WBTV
with these
reported
fast food places?
in North Carolina. The video was recorded on February the 5th from outside the restaurant and shows a man with his shirt off and another person sitting behind him wearing blue gloves and holding a tattoo gun.
Kind of makes you want to bring the family to Wendy's, doesn't it?
Pull up a chair. A city official said an environmental health team member talked to the store manager on February the 6th and reminded them that the restaurant cannot, this is in quotes, cannot tattoo without a permit. For its part, the franchisee said they took immediate disciplinary action to address the situation. That's from WBTV.
And we should note, they talked to the store manager, meaning the store manager had approved this.
It was pre-approved, but I'll address it immediately.
What kind of burger joint are you running here?
Article 4.
I actually saw this on video, article number 4.
No. Okay.
It was quite hilarious.
This article, you think you know the article until the end, and it just has a plot twist.
It does.
Spoiler alert, everyone. Article number 4. During a boxing match on January the 31st in New York, heavyweight Gerald Miller lost his head, or at least his hair. Fox News reported that as Miller fought Kingsley Iba, one of Iba's punches knocked Miller's head back, and his hairpiece flew upward from the front, revealing a mostly bald head.
It went like this.
I saw that too.
You've heard of wavy hair? This was hair that was waving.
Is there a video of this?
Yes, there absolutely is.
Amazing. Look it up, people. Miller ripped off the toupee and threw it into the crowd, where spectators posed for photos with it. That's funny enough. But wait, there's more. Strangely, Miller said that he got the hairpiece just 2 days before, after he accidentally washed his hair with ammonia bleach instead of shampoo.
What a goofball.
And Miller won the bout in a split decision.
He still won.
Good job. That's from Fox News.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of the whole Tyson Holyfield thing. When Tyson bit Holyfield's ear, he spit it out in the crowd, and that ended up on eBay.
No.
In a jar.
Gosh.
Yeah, look it up.
Ah.
Somebody paid a lot of money for Holyfield's ear.
So do you think this guy's toupee is out there somewhere as a souvenir?
It has to be.
I would
Somebody
think
will
so,
sell
yeah.
it.
Yeah. Buy it,
Ridiculous.
Bruce, and put it behind you in the studio.
Hey, I need it.
Yeah, you and me both. That's why I wear a hat.
I'll put it right there. And I won't use ammonia bleach.
Don't use ammonia bleach. PSA.
That's right.
Article number 5. Researchers at the University of Maryland have developed new technology to, yes, it's true, count the number of times people pass gas each day. The New York Post reported on February the 10th that previously scientists believed that people tooted on average of 14 times a day. But UMD reported that the number is more like 32 times per day. The team created smart underwear, a wearable device that snaps into regular underwear and detects increased hydrogen levels.
Also known as a fartometer.
They say the previous lower estimates were based on self-reporting and people's varying ideas of what counts as flatulence. UMD is looking for participants for its Human Flatus Atlas.
Repeat that because I laughed real loud. I'm sorry.
UMD is looking for participants for its Human Flatus Atlas. That's the name of the program, which will measure the gas patterns of hundreds of people in case you're interested. That's from the New York Post.
Yeah, I have a smartphone, but I don't really want smart underwear.
That's I wonder if they're paying people to do it. Or is it
How people aren't doing it for free.
a vol?
Oh boy. What's happening, Chad? What's happening? But one thing I have to give you credit for is at least your report gets straight to the news.
That's right.
The stuff that our listeners can use.
That's right.
The stuff that really matters.
That's right. And by the way, I totally forgot to mention Christopher Cartwright was joining us during the Chad Miles report. And Christopher's going on vacation soon, but he'll be back next week, so will Chad. Chad, and I will too. Chad, thank you so much for giving us the facts on the
You're
Chad
welcome,
Miles
Bruce.
report.
Thanks for having me.
Our guest tonight is Nils Grevillius. Nils Grevillius is a crime expert, author, and U.S. Army veteran who completed 3 tours in Korea with DMZ service. Nils is the author of the upcoming book, The Last Lawman, True Stories of a Private Detective. I believe that's coming out in June, but we'll ask Nils. I'm really looking forward to this book. He's a Los Angeles-based private investigator with more than 30 years of experience conducting cases across all 50 states and around the world. Nils Grevillius, welcome to the Bruce Collins Show.
Well, good morning, Bruce. Good evening, Bruce. How are you?
Doing great. Okay, so we actually recorded this during the day. That's why that happened. But I want to get into your background. I find it really interesting. I was a fan of detective shows as a kid, but I know those stray from reality a little bit. What were your early experiences that most influenced your decision to pursue investigative work?
I'll be straight with you, Bruce. I didn't have a lot of early experiences that steered me specifically toward this. Like when I was a kid, I wasn't sitting there saying, become a detective. Yeah, I was not. My first love was farming. I wanted to be a farmer rather badly. And then after that, architecture. And then what occurred was the staggering realization that I have no mind for abstract math. And in order to be a successful architect, an architect must have just as fine a sense of abstract mathematics as he does aesthetics. So there was no way I was going to land in that. And I went in the Army on my 17th birthday. And the work I did in the Army is really what funneled me toward ultimately what I do now.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned military intelligence. You also were in the organization Pinkerton. How does that give you an advantage in private investigations?
All detective work came in this nation originated with the Pinkertons. There weren't really police detectives on any large cooperative scale prior to Alan Pinkerton forming a private organization called the Pinkerton Detective Service or Pinkerton National Detective Service. So it is one and the same thing, Mr. Collins. I do for private hire what the police do, under a public imprimatur. So there isn't that much difference in that sense. Just some of the tools they have, I do not have, and the inverse. I cannot go to a judge and get a search warrant, however meritorious my case might be. But a police detective is kept within a very narrow field as to what he may do in a case and what he may not do.
So we're going to go back to 1981, the Wonderland Avenue murders. And a lot of people know this case. Obviously, it was a very famous case about some drug dealers. Apparently, that had a home invasion and they they robbed an organized crime figure, who eventually went back and went to their house and took along a porn star. And big case, you came along later. How did that come about that you were able to investigate and actually found out about a cover-up with the Wonderland murders?
Mr. Collins, it is like this. I became very well acquainted with one of the original LAPD detectives who was on the case, Robert Souza, the co-author of Malice in Wonderland, and his partner Tom Lang. I know both of the men. They are justifiably famous. They worked this case, and Bob characterized it as the single most frustrating case he ever handled as an elite homicide detective at Robbery Homicide Division, LAPD. I went to work on it with the goal of writing a book myself, and it changed my views on some things and exposed me to more. And working with Bob and Tom would be like showing up at Dodger Stadium and being called out of the left field pavilion and being given a chance to go in the batting lineup is really what it was. I worked tirelessly for 3 years once I discovered what it was, because Bob and Tom knew within 24 hours of catching the case that Ed Nash had ordered the murders. And they were frustrated and stymied, and people stood in their way when they started marching toward bringing Ed Nash in on the murders. And it amazed me the depths, the level, who was involved, that sort of thing. Some of it was very passive corruption, Mr. Collins, and a lot of people don't properly understand civic corruption. Corruption is a matter of influence more than anything else. If I'm running a very popular bar, nightclub, etc., maybe a series of topless cabarets, and police officers like to come to my places when they're off duty, I make sure that wait staff give them everything for free. Booze, food, etc., as long as it doesn't become abusive. When somebody makes a report about me being maybe involved in prostitution or dealing cocaine or something like that, the police officer taking the report, he takes the report goes up the chain. Somebody makes a decision, why go after Nils? Nils is a fun and friendly guy. People are going to toot cocaines anyway. Everybody likes sex, and so prostitution isn't really that big a deal. So let's move on to easier cases to make than bringing Nils in for cocaine and prostitution, pandering, that kind of thing. That's an example of the passive corruption. Now, what if Nils and Bruce become business partners and they buy 35 different bars, restaurants, nightclubs, etc., all of which have liquor licenses, which are so valued in California that they go through escrow like a real estate transaction just for the license? They're very costly. And what if Bruce and Nils overinsure every one of these establishments when they become less than profitable for the quick profit of a fire insurance claim? And what if one of our attorneys advising our series of corporations and limited companies is on the City Fire Commission?
Yeah. So,
And what if the organized crime strike force, comprised of federal agents, city police, U.S. Attorney's Office, and Los Angeles Fire Department arson investigation, what if somebody on that task force is in my back pocket, protecting me, letting me know when there's going to be a wiretap, letting me know that one of my business associates is wearing a tape recorder into meetings with me? What if things like that go on?
So obviously, this situation that you were involved in, did this alter your view of power and corruption, and also the institutional accountability or lack thereof within the Los Angeles police force?
Much the Los Angeles police force, Mr. Collins, as the city in general. People are foolish in this country. I'm going to point out something here in Los Angeles or in Philadelphia or any other city. People will complain about their police being inept and corrupt. Maybe they are. If you have an inept, corrupt police force, it's because you have elected jackals, fools, and crooks to the city council, and they have appointed somebody to filter all of their fondest wishes, called the city manager. And the city manager is the flag catcher who decides how city funds are going to be spent and how resources will otherwise be allocated and what's a good case and what's not a good case. The advantage I have as a detective in doing interviews with men such as yourself in the media, Bruce, is I don't have some lieutenant leaning down my shoulder telling me you can't say that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't report to some bastard in a suit, Mr. Collins. I'm my own boss. And I've been broke plenty of times to prove it, okay? But I've never been broken in the 34 years that I've been running my own show in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm. So I used to live in California. I live in Arizona now. Would you say this is a problem statewide? I mean, I see California as kind of full of corrupt politicians.
It's a problem. I don't believe that California is a 70-30 state. I think California is a 51-48 state. With voter identification and proof of citizenship to register to vote, that sort of thing, it would change quickly. But the dominant culture in the big cities of California, people are stupid. They come to me to solve their problems at a great cost after voting for the policies which have hamstrung them, caused them to be robbed, things like that. And
Yeah.
I can't tell them otherwise. I tell some woman who comes in because she's lost a daughter to a fentanyl overdose, how upset she's upset, that sort of thing. And she tells me what a great supporter of Gavin Newsom she is, and Joe Biden and Barack Obama, that sort of thing. If I point out to her unnecessarily, well, you voted for it, maybe I don't want the case if I'm telling her that, right, Mr. Collins? Maybe I say it anyway in the most gentle of ways, but they still don't learn because for them, their voting patterns are their personality disorder.
Mm-hmm.
It's about their emotions. It's not about what's best for the city, the state, the country, their neighborhood, their family, that kind of thing. It's how they feel about themselves, which is where we get into virtue signaling. And virtue signaling is a fancy word for what Immanuel Kant, the 18th century philosopher, called, the hierarchy of ethics. And at the very lowest end of the scale of human ethics is what we call aesthetics, doing it because it makes you look good, not because
Yeah.
you have good motives. And
Yeah.
there are no good intentions, Bruce, without good judgment. When somebody comes to me and they say, well, I intended to do something good, and ultimately there were unintended consequences, that means you didn't use good judgment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we seem to live in an age where social media encourages everyone to complain, but we seem to want the same answers as we've always had, which is the definition of insanity. So
I think you're correct, Mr. Collins. What part of Arizona are you in?
I'm south of Tucson, so obviously we have a big news story that we'll talk about later.
Okay, well, where are you in Benson, Douglas, Agua Prieta? Where are
Green
you?
Valley.
Oh, lovely. Very nice.
Thank you. So you've worked a lot of high profile cases. Have you seen media coverage hurt investigations as much as they help them? I mean, I'm kind of shocked that TMZ is so involved with this current case. Um, what do you make of media coverage? It obviously helps, but I can see in certain areas we indict people through the media when they're actually innocent.
Well, and then we acquit them in the media when they're guilty. You remember the O.J.
Yeah,
Simpson case,
right.
where the regular media did a mind meld with the entertainment media and decided that O.J. Simpson was innocent before the preliminary hearing had even been conducted, and drove his getaway car throughout the whole thing, while the rest of us are sitting there saying, well, we got a real problem here. Another great example would be the Rodney King riots, where the media decided the police officers were guilty of all of these, attempted murder, all these other things on Rodney King, and then encouraged the riots that occurred when the police officers were acquitted. I'm sorry, I've got a bit of a cold, man.
No, let me just say that every time I turn on my camera to record something, my nose almost always runs, and it never does otherwise.
Maybe you're allergic to the public, Mr.
There you go.
Collins. I wouldn't suggest running for governor of Arizona.
No.
So those are examples. The police can also very skillfully use the media to send out bad information to help a bad guy expose himself if he thinks that he's gotten away clean, that kind of thing. I once did something to influence somebody to reveal themselves, and there was a police department in Southern California that would put out a crime blotter every morning on the front desk at 5 a.m. for the newspaper people to come over and read who got arrested, what were they arrested for, things like that. And there was a notable series of thefts, and I created the name of a fake defendant who had been arrested, and I created my own crime blotter and went over and put it on the clipboard for the media to suck up and broadcast all over town. And it caused somebody to reveal who was involved.
Fascinating. So, I want to remind our listeners and also our watchers on YouTube, we're speaking with Nils Grevillius. He's the author of an upcoming book that I think you're going to be interested in, The Last Lawman: True Stories of a Private Detective. Before he goes, we're going to ask him give us a little teaser of that book. But I understand you do a lot of hidden asset cases. What's the most complex or one of the more complex hidden asset cases you've been involved in?
There was a character named Patterson Hayton, Hayton, who was something of an Australian, a financier. And Pat Hayton liked to steal money from people with a series of handshakes and ink pens and pieces of paper, that sort of thing. He didn't have stones enough to stick a gun in your face and rob you. He had a string of polo ponies in La Quinta, which is out by Palm Springs, and another string of polo ponies up in Santa Barbara. And if anybody was going to make a movie about Pat Hayton, they'd probably hire Pierce Brosnan to play him. He was a bluff man. He as a cocktail party trick, he would eat a martini glass to show how strong he was, how unafraid he was. And he had assets layered in a number of countries, and then he had a problem with his wife, was apparently enjoying the horizontal company of a Latin polo player. And he hired a couple of stable hands, apparently, according to the Riverside County Sheriffs, to murder his wife's boyfriend while he was at a dinner party. So he had what they call an alibi, but alibi doesn't mean, alibi means elsewhere in Greek. So he was elsewhere. He was alibi at the time that his wife's boyfriend was murdered. So he fled the country, trying to avoid getting nabbed for murder for hire, and then allegedly died of a heart attack in London. And I've never been able to suss out whether or not the boys at the yard took his fingerprints and DNA, because he was very quickly cremated. So I'm not perfectly satisfied that Patterson Hayton was in fact dead in London, but you wanted to know about the assets.
Yeah.
Okay, so Pat Hayton had assets concealed throughout the South Pacific in terms of they were vested to corporations and limited companies formed on an island called Tuvalu. And Tuvalu is one of those places where they kick the kids off the soccer field once a week so an airplane can land with a fresh batch of fraudulent incorporations to disguise ownership of assets. The whole island functions on fraud. I'll give you a good example. If you were to do even the most cursory Google search on climate change in Tuvalu, you would discover that since about 1995 or 96, there have been people associated with the Green Communist movement claiming that Tuvalu is about to go underwater. The island, the sea level is going to rise and the island is going to disappear and the Tuvaluans will have nowhere to go, that sort of thing. And the island remains the same, whether you believe in global warming or not. It is exactly the same today as it was in 1995. But they get a lot of UN aid for it. And the sort of pointy-headed people with letters after their names would get junkets to Tuvalu so that they could vacation in the South Pacific while pretending it's science. I mean, that's the whole GDP of the island of Tuvalu. And it's an independent state. That was one of them. Another complex assets case would be there was a character whom I cannot name who was involved in professional athletics. And he was hiding assets from creditors. And he had made most of his original fortune in stolen antiquities and gold coins. And he was in a Chapter 7 situation, Mr. Collins. And I wound up being brought in to prove or disprove whether or not he had assets. And through surveillance, I learned that this man had a condominium about 5 miles from his house where he kept a very expensive piece of horizontal entertainment. Czech woman who looked like an underwear model of some sort. And we wondered what was in the condominium because the condominium was vested to a Delaware corporation that he had no connection to. And I discovered that he was late on his rent of the woman. So the person who had afforded him the woman got me into the condominium. And that's where all the things he was hiding from his creditors were all in that condominium. And he wound up in federal prison for his trouble. Here's another complex assets case. A man comes to me who's a European businessman who in the 70s, his company had been robbed by their American attorney. And the man had stolen maybe $7 or $8 million while transacting business for their company and had been disbarred in his home state of Massachusetts and had gone about his life, had filed a bankruptcy petition even that was denied. He could not discharge his debts in bankruptcy. Well, so the man from Europe is visiting Malibu, and like in 1990 or 91, and encounters his family's company's old attorney in the Malibu ranch market. And he decides he needs to bury the hatchet with this man, even though the man still owes him millions of dollars, etc. He goes over to say hello to the man and tell him, go about your business. Never look over your shoulder on my account. I forgive you. And when he approaches the man and says, hello, the thief immediately recognizes him and says, get the hell away from me, you Nazi son of a bitch. And it infuriated this European businessman so much because his family had actually hidden Jews to protect them from the Nazis during the war. And he was offended that his family's old lawyer would do this. So he hired an attorney. The attorney came to me. And what I learned was that he had taken the money he had stolen and had gone into a relationship with an art gallery owner, a female. And they were living in Manhattan, New York, and they had an art gallery. And so I went to Manhattan Sub Rosa, and I pretended to be the sort of person who would need to buy art. And I had a budget. I could buy 2 pieces of art, and I could do this, and I could do that. And I had a very elaborate cover where I pretended to be a designer from Tucson.
Interesting.
This was before the internet, where you could easily vet somebody in 2 minutes on Google to see if they were who they were, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now I could create a fake persona using the internet that could withstand vetting. I mean, for every measure, there's a countermeasure. Any device of security created by man can be undone by another man. So I pretended to know this. I had a good friend in my youth who was a professor of art, so I knew enough about art that I could maintain a conversation with these two. I bought a painting. They invited me to a gathering, a luncheon at their gallery, all this, and then I was invited to a cocktail party at their apartment in Hell's Kitchen. And back in that era, fanny packs were ubiquitous. Every idiot in North America had a fanny pack because it's a man purse that you strap to yourself, whatever. So some of them were small, but had a mesh front for carrying a dog in it, a small dog. So what if I put a video camera in that, Bruce? And I'm in this party with the door open, right? And there may be 40 people, a nice party, and I get a walking tour of their apartment. And on the walls are a Picasso, a Renoir, a Degas,
Wow.
things like this, charcoal sketches with the disbarred attorney thief telling me I bought this on this date, I bought this in this year, I was living in the south of France in the early 80s when I acquired this one. And I asked him, well, this is quite an impressive art collection. Did this come with your apartment? No, this is my art collection, my personal art collection. So the crowning touch on my way out, going back to the western half of this country, was I asked the girlfriend of this man, because she was the brains behind the two of them. She was the one writing the checks for them, let's say. I said, I have a very good friend from art school whose trust fund has just vested, and she is going to need the best advice possible here in New York City on how to handle her money. Do you know anybody? Can you recommend anyone? And she said, yes, XYZ accountant and business manager handles all of our personal funds, every account we have. Well, there's no privilege between a business manager or an accountant and somebody committing crimes,
Right.
unlike an attorney or a doctor. So I got back, the lawyer drew up charging documents, got the marshal's office, went in and hauled paintings off of walls, served deposition subpoenas and restraining orders on the business manager, all of these things. And the attorney who had been disbarred filed a new bankruptcy petition using exactly the same arguments, thesis, and rationale as to why these debts should be discharged. And you cannot discharge debts arising of theft, fraud, perfidy, conversion, etc. in a bankruptcy proceeding. At least you're not supposed to be able to. There used to be a useless bankruptcy judge. I won't call him corrupted by anything other than his imaginary ethics, where he would discharge anything, no matter how much thievery was involved. That was Judge Sam Bufford. He's no longer on the bench. Maybe he's dead now. I don't know. He was incompetent and a jackass. But anyway, Bufford is not germane to this case. So his bankruptcy petition was, and he threatened suicide if he did not get his things back. Well, all of these things got seized to satisfy the judgment of the creditor. So I had to use every skill that I'd learned as a Pinkerton man, as a counterintelligence agent, and as a scout in the infantry in order to develop this. And you were asking me earlier about the advantages I might have received as a counterintelligence man. I think I received just as much from being a scout in the infantry, and I'm going to explain why. There's a very interesting book about Delta Force written by a colonel named Pete Blaber, and it's an interesting book. It's titled The Men, the Mission, and Me. And Blaber talks about how you must develop a situation when things are unclear. And remember, ambiguity always aids a man trying to escape a crime. So to drive the ambiguity out of the room, you have to develop the situation. And so sending a man sub rosa into an art gallery to develop the situation is what we're talking about here. Now, a scout in the infantry, it's a small unit inside a larger unit, and what the scout platoon does is they develop the situation. They go out ahead of the battalion to identify where the enemy is and maybe give him a bloody nose sufficient to get him to reveal his numbers, his disposition, and what he intends to do or not do. That's developing the situation.
What if I have two separate accounts from two separate people and they're at odds with each other? They're conflicting. How do I assess credibility, or how would you do that?
First, I establish as many possible facts as I can about both men or women. Where were they born? Who are their parents? Where have they gone to school? Have they been in business? Have they ever been sued? What were they sued for? Who sued them? All of these things. When I open my interview with someone, I don't just come right out and say, "Now, Mr. Collins, tell me what you stole and why you stole it. Mr. Collins, tell me why you assaulted that woman when she was drunk." Things like that.
Right.
"Gosh, Bruce, it's sure nice to meet you. Tell me a little bit about yourself. This is a very interesting place. You've got this nice studio in your condominium. Does the HOA allow you to do this? I mean, I wish I had a situation like this." And I enter you into casual conversation where you are telling me things and I'm assessing everything that you say. I give you 3 or 4 opportunities to lie to me about things that I already have the facts on.
Mm-hmm.
And if you lie to me about those things, chances are you have a hidden agenda. Now, sometimes an honest man will have a hidden agenda too. So sometimes we have to engage in what's called profiling. Okay, so the behavioral sciences unit of the FBI, they've put a lot of work into this. Some of the work is very good. They've got some really good people in their behavioral unit. I will say that most street-level homicide detectives in places like Chicago, Philadelphia, Birmingham, Charlotte, Mecklenburg, etc., are just as good at criminal profiling as anybody in the FBI. It's because they have to bash themselves up against murder after murder after murder. They have to deal with psychopaths over and over again. The psychopath typically, when you're dealing, especially when you're dealing with street criminals, they want complete credit for the evil that they've done without any of the weight, any of the responsibility. And so they'll remove themselves from the action while signaling to anybody listening that they were involved. And I'll give you an example. Let's say I'm interviewing Bruce Collins, and Bruce Collins is a member of the Yayo street gang of northern Tucson, and the Yayos do drug rips and that sort of thing. And Cisco has been gutted, and he's laying in a ditch next to the highway, bled out, that kind of thing. And we know that Cisco has 5 priors for distribution of narcotics. And I've got Bruce sat down. Bruce wants to signal to all the other rival gangsters that he's the one who did it, but he doesn't want to go to prison for it. So I asked Bruce, what happened to Cisco? And Bruce says to me, Cisco got stabbed. Instead of, I don't know. Well, who did it? I don't know. Well, how do you know he got stabbed? I heard it on the street. He wants 2 things, credit and no responsibility.
Yeah.
And it's the way that they communicate that the psychopath reveals himself to you.
What if you have a situation where you have limited information initially, so you're not sure where to go? Do you have an investigative strategy about that?
Yes, I do. And it's something I learned in counterintelligence, actually. You do a background investigation on every single player. Let's say there's only 2 of them. So I'm going to go back over the basics, and I can't do an effective background investigation unless and until I know who someone is. If all I have is his nickname, Cisco, I have to figure out, okay, that's usually short for Francisco. I identify who his parents were, where he grew up, where he went to school, all of his priors for criminality. And there's often a lot of things involved in civil matters that indicate moral turpitude. What if Cisco has been evicted from apartment after apartment after apartment and or has restraining orders against him? So I go pull those restraining orders, and I discover 3 different women have taken out domestic violence restraining orders against Cisco, and it's always the same thing. He beats the hell out of them. He comes home drunk. He steals their car and disappears for 2 weeks at a time. Things like that. I've got a much better idea of what Cisco's up to, don't I?
Right. Right. Yes.
So I'm developing the situation by going into the past, into his background. And in the background, I'm going to identify lead after lead after lead, and I cover the next indicated lead. Interview each of Cisco's former girlfriends. Okay, Juanita, tell me a little bit about Cisco. Well, Cisco beat me up, and he stole my car, and he maxed out my credit card, but I still got his gun back up under here under my pillow. Oh, that's very interesting, Juanita. Do you mind if I take the gun from you? I wish you would. My baby was playing with it last night.
Hmm.
So, I mean, that's how you develop a situation. Sometimes you have to do surveillance. Some men are so sub rosa, meaning operating under the cover of the rose, which is the ancient symbol of secrecy, that you must place them under discreet surveillance so that you catch them candidly, what it is that they do. Let's say Bruce Collins makes a series of stops every day, short stops at different places. He goes to a tobacconist. He goes to 2 candy stores. He goes to 3 dry cleaners. What does that mean? Does he have like 3 different expensive Borsalino suits being cleaned at different dry cleaners, and he wants to know which dry cleaner is the best one? No. He's either dealing drugs, he's making book, or he's collecting shy money. Those are the things that are going on.
Yeah.
But it might be a combination of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Now, as you've gone along with your 30-year career in private investigations, do you find the longer you do this, your intuition starts to become a bigger part of the pie in terms of hard evidence versus intuition?
There is no intuition, Bruce.
Hmm.
There is only my emotional reaction to the facts. And sometimes I'm emotionally reacting to a fact I haven't analyzed yet.
Okay.
You know, Bruce says to me, Cisco got stabbed. Bruce isn't saying I stabbed Cisco. So I'm emotionally reacting to Bruce Collins saying to me, Cisco got stabbed. Well, how did Bruce Collins know that if the police didn't tell anyone how it was that Cisco wound up dead? That
Mhm.
there is no intuition. There's just an
Okay.
emotional reaction to what it is that we're seeing, what we're hearing, and what we're comparing to other things.
Yeah.
Comparison and contrast is the greatest tool in political debate. What they call it now is whataboutism. You can't say that. That's whataboutism. Yeah, we're hypocritical. We like being hypocritical. You know, whatever. But comparison and contrast is a very valuable tool. What it's called otherwise is pattern recognition. What if What if I put you to sleep with a series of letters where the letters themselves, the text of the letters, say one thing, but I murder you with the envelope? It's the pattern of it is
Mhm.
usually more revealing than what's contained in the letter.
Mhm. Now, you looking over your long career, what's the most dangerous situation you've been in? Was it your fault? Was it just a circumstance? And is there a way to manage risk as a private investigator?
It's always my fault, Bruce. I could have stayed home and become a podiatrist or something like that, right?
Hmm.
I chose this profession. The way that I manage risk is by knowing what it is that I'm going up against to the greatest possible extent that I can, and to never give my opposition a chance to catch me flat-footed. So the most dangerous situations I've been in have been rounding up fugitives on my lonesome by myself. You know, taking a door off the hinges at 5 o'clock in the morning with a hammer and going in and taking a man at gunpoint at his home, his barrio, his neighborhood, his ghetto, his, public housing project, getting him in irons and getting him into my car and getting him to the man before any of his crimies can react. And there've been a few times where it could have been really bad, surrounded in the courtyard of an apartment building with just me, just my 1911, my man in handcuffs, you know, and I could have died in that situation. And I was very lucky that day. I had the LAPD rescue me. Some neighbors saw me and dialed 911, thinking a cop was in trouble. I'm not a cop. I'm a private operator. The cops were irritated. They thought it was a help call for a police officer. They went all out, Bruce. I could hear the Kawasaki police motorcycles fully wound out blocks away, racing to the scene to save my pathetic ass, right? So I live to run and gun another day. I've
Yeah.
I've been in situations like that.
Hmm. You're fortunate. So, given your experience with corruption, this is kind of a out of the ballpark question. Do you think Jeffrey Epstein was murdered?
Mr. Collins, there's murder and then there's murder and then there's other kinds of murder. Um, I don't believe the thing about the video having, a hidden image of an orange blob going up the stairs, that kind of thing. I think that Jeffrey Epstein was murdered by remote control, Mr. Collins. What if you and I are cellmates and you're on suicide watch according to the Federal Bureau of Prisons? And I'm your cellmate, and I'm in metropolitan detention with you because I'm in there for doing 4 cartel hits. because I'm a hitman who used to be a police officer, and I'm your cellmate. And up until just a couple of hours before Jeffy Jeff is found dead, he has a nice cellmate, Nicholas Tartaglione. 4 cartel hits is his bunkie. And what if Tartaglione gets up on Epstein real close and says, now, Jeff, when I leave here tonight, I expect you to do what's right, because it's easier and nicer and more pleasant if you do it as opposed to me doing it. You'll like it a lot more if you do it, Jeff, because if I do it, you're not going to like it.
Right. What a way to go. So this has been a great interview, and I'm really looking forward to your book. I believe
Can I
it's
say
released.
something else about Epstein?
Oh, for sure.
Look at the two two of these people, one's dead and the other's alive. Ghislaine Maxwell is alive and he's dead. Ghislaine Maxwell has multi-nation status. She can go to any country, France, England, whatever. But she chose to come here. All right. Her father,
Yeah.
Robert Maxwell, when I look at his profile, he looks like MI6 to me, Mr. Collins. So what if Jeffy Jeff was just the errand boy, the bun boy who arranges the whole thing and is the fun, friendly face of frolic and threesomes and drugs and back rubs and teenage girls, and Ghislaine Maxwell is the human intelligence case officer running the honey trap for MI6 and the CIA. And then Prince Andrew of the royal family blunders into it, and they have to shut the whole thing down because you can never do anything contrary to the needs and status of the royal family. She's the one still alive, and she could have gone anywhere, but she chose to come here.
So
And
you're
you know the
alluding to.
Israelis aren't involved, because if the Israelis were involved, Bruce, if this was their show, there'd be dead bodies everywhere to cover this thing up. Not just one. Okay,
So
go ahead.
you're alluding to government activity, the CIA, and I believe that they've been involved in drug running. And there was a gentleman by the name of Terry Seal years ago that supposedly was
Mena, Arkansas.
right, exactly. So that would explain why, the Epstein information that's been coming out has been, we're told part of it is verified, part of it is not. And that it's sort of been a wash, basically.
I've got a better one for you. Who was in charge of all the Epstein files as of February when last year when Pam Bondi ordered a release, and she gets humiliated on live television because they didn't give her what it is that she ordered? What
I'm
if
not sure.
Jim Dennehy, FBI, Southern District of Manhattan, was sitting on all the files, right? So she orders him on nationwide television to turn over every bloody thing that he has. And the next day, Jim Dennehy resigns, not from the case, not from the office he's in, from the FBI. Jim Dennehy was not a human trafficking investigator. He wasn't involved in bank robbery investigations, fraud investigations, political corruption. Dennehy was, from start to finish, a counterintelligence agent. They pushed the Epstein case over into counterintelligence to protect the human job that 2 agencies were obviously running on this thing. Okay, and they probably have a lot of people, a lot of sources to protect in this. They probably developed many, many leads, opportunities, etc. And Donald Trump and Bill Clinton were not the objects of it. It was the men that went in with them who were the objects of this. And this is obvious to me from the pattern of it rather than the text. There's just too much garbage out there to be believed. But when we look at the context of it, what we absolutely solidly know, that's what it looks like to me.
Okay. So again, I want to remind our listeners and watchers that your upcoming book is being released in June. I'm really excited about this. I want to get a copy, and I hope others do too. It's The Last Lawman, True Stories of a Private Detective by Nils Grevillius, our guest today. What a fascinating interview. Before you go, there's 2 things I want to ask you about. The Nancy Guthrie case, how do you think it's been handled first?
I don't think it's been handled poorly, Mr. Collins, by either the sheriff or the FBI. I would have to know more facts about their conduct in the case for me to suspect, malfeasance or something like that. They've handled it far better than the Boulder police handled Jean-Benet Ramsey. That was believed to be a kidnapping and was ultimately found to be a homicide. It took hours rather than weeks for that. Now, I'm going to say it's my belief, unfortunately, that Nancy Guthrie is dead 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
It's a sad thing. It's a horrifying thing for the Guthrie family. I don't think that any of these ransom notes is legitimate. I think the people communicating with TMZ are probably gamer kids or something like that. The guy's sitting like the man arrested 2 weeks ago in Hawthorne, California for trying to extort the family with Bitcoin or whatever.
Right.
That's all I think that is. Now, plainly, she was abducted, but not all abductions are equal. I don't think the object of the abduction was ransom. I think the object of the abduction was one of two things, probably murder, a hit, or abducted to be sexually abused or abused in some other way and then murdered.
Well, I hope she's well, but yeah, I kind of am leaning that way also. And obviously, you have experience that I don't have. So before we go, and this has been an honor to talk to you today. Before we go, what are people going to find in your upcoming book, The Last Lawman? And is it true that the book will be released in June?
June the 9th, it will deliver on June the 9th. You can go on to Amazon and buy it today, just in time for Father's Day this year. This is what the book is. It's what made me into a private detective. It's how I've survived as a private detective and how actually the profession changed me, and then how I changed the profession. Somebody asked me the other day, Nils, are you the top private detective in Los Angeles? I don't think that I am. There are many people who could contend for that title. I'm not particularly worried about it. But there's a great line in the Jack Nicholson movie, The Two Jakes, which is sort of a sequel to Chinatown, where Jake Gitt says, I'm the leper with the most fingers left. Well, I still have my trigger finger, Mr. Collins.
Yes. Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to look forward to this book, The Last Lawman by Nils Grevillius. What an interview. Thank you so much, Nils, for being my guest this week.
It's my sincere pleasure. You take care and be safe, Mr. Collins.
You too. Thank you. Hey, thank you for joining us this week. Really appreciate it. If you would, please like this video and subscribe to the Bruce Collins Show channel. That helps us a lot with the algorithm so we can spread this show over many eyeballs. Also, I have another channel if you're interested. It's Bruce Collins Reacts and Stuff, where I look at some of the mysterious, interesting videos out on YouTube and I react to them. I think you'll like that too. In the meantime, we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us. Take care.
Curtains wide. It's the Bruce Collins Show, where the stories will be a of the mind, leave the world behind. Oh, the burial broadcasting keeps the dream everlasting. He weaves the dark with a thread of gold, a million tales in a world untold. Late night whispers never grow old. Oh, close your eyes, let the static spark. The voice of the bear ignites the dark. Ideas soaring, breaking apart. It's the Bruce Collins Show. It's the Bruce Collins Show, where the stories flow. You'll be a terror of the mind, leave the world behind. Oh, the burial broadcasting keeps the dream everlasting.
That's a wrap, falafelites. This has been a Bad Yodeler production. Good night.